What is quacking, everybody? This past year for my birthday, I was like really into Pokemon, and I still am. I've been on a huge Pokemon kick, and my fiance got me Pokemon Legends Arceus, and I started playing it, but never got around to finishing it. And recently, I just got around to finishing the game, and oh boy, was it a journey. When the game first came out, I never really like took to the game because I wasn't super interested in it. I was just like, oh cool, you just run around or whatever. So I wasn't really interested in it, but I figured I'd give it a shot since, some Pokemon in the game such as Ursaluna and Sneasler are competitively viable. And honestly, it's kind of the easiest way to get like Pokemon. Like it might not be the best way for like trying to get stats and stuff, but like it's just kind of like the easiest way to get like some Pokemon. So I played through the entire game, and I'm just going to start off with the comparison between the Switch 1 and 2 because I started playing it on Switch 1 obviously before Switch 2 came out, but I finished it on the Switch 2, and I will say they were mostly the same. They were relatively the same. There wasn't anything super crazy. Obviously, the Switch 2 one ran better, but it wasn't like a Scarlet and Violet Switch 1 and Switch 2 difference where it's like, man, it's like really laggy and crazy on the Switch 1, but on the Switch 2 it runs perfectly fine. Like, no, you could easily play this game on the Switch 1 and 2. It doesn't matter. Like, if you've never played it and you're like, can I use this video to judge, if I need a Switch 2 or not, it's perfectly playable on the Switch 1. I really didn't run into any issues. I don't think it lagged at all. There really wasn't any issues. So it's basically the same between Switch 1 and 2. The game also looks pretty decent as well. It looks very similar to Scarlet and Violet and Sword and Shield. I'm assuming it was made in roughly the same, engine and just kind of using the same art and models and stuff like that, which is probably what they're going to do for the foreseeable future because there's a lot of Pokemon, there's a lot of, this and that. So they probably just have everything, isolated in one, thing. So they're probably just using like the same stuff, maybe upgrading and switching the engine a little bit, as the future progresses, but probably, same art and stuff because I already have it done. So probably, it looked fine. The game looked pretty, it was nice. The game looked nice, especially like towards the end, Spear Pillar and stuff like that. Like everything looked really nice, towards that aspect. The village was very nice looking and like it had a nice cozy village vibe to it, so that was also nice. The Alabaster Icelands though was really good as a snow area. I liked how it looked, the village, the temple with Regigigas in it. It was just all very nice looking. Music wise as well, the game was very nice to listen to. I did think some of like the wild music as you were roaming around didn't really fit the vibe too much. I'm gonna be honest, like it was a little bit like aggressive, and I was expecting more, like music that was more calming or whatever, or just like more, windpipe music and stuff like that. I think there's like a guitar song in there or whatever, like kind of like a rockish, like rock song in there. And I'm like, it feels kind of weird, but whatever. It's still good. Like all the music was good, but some of the music didn't fit the vibe for me and kind of threw me off a little bit. Control wise, the game controlled just fine. It was perfectly fine. The controls are different from your regular Pokemon games though. And I recently went back to Scarlet and Violet to finish up the side quest by catching all the Pokemon for the Kitakami and Indigo disc desks. And I was just like, man, what buttons do I hit to get my map and stuff like that? Because the map button is the dodge button in Legends Arceus, so I was just getting confused. So if you're going back and forth between the games, you might get a little bit confused. But otherwise, in a vacuum, Legends Arceus controls are just fine. I will say the only issue I had was I just felt like the dodge roll was just a little bit too slow. There was just so much end lag on it, and just like, I don't know, it could have been sped up in my opinion, but otherwise everything was totally fine. Now, the gameplay loop was different from normal Pokemon. You could do traditional battles, but also the game kind of encouraged you to be stealthy and get stealth Pokemon captures, and you could realistically go through like 90% of the game without battling anything, which is cool. I do like that you can do different aspects, catching Pokemon in different ways and not having to only focus on battling. But outside of like, being able to, capture the Pokemon however you want, that's pretty cool. One of my gripes is the fact that, as you progress through the game, this is more like when you get into like late game and, you're trying to like complete tasks you didn't complete and the Pokedex and all that stuff. I really find it annoying how like when I'm just trying to do like little small tasks, every single Pokemon under the sun just still wants to attack you. And I kind of feel like as you get your star power up, they should make it so, less and less Pokemon don't attack you. Or if you've already caught one of that species or completed the species dex, they wouldn't really attack you or something. Because I was trying to get the Pelt Block for my Ursaluna, and it's just like as I'm running around, it's just like everything wants to keep attacking me nonstop, and they just keep hitting me, knocking me off Ursaluna. It's like I just want to get my thing. I just never really like I felt like I had like that time to enjoy the world and walk around and have those like silly moments where it's like, ooh, look at this Pokemon, ha ha ha. It was just like everything constantly wants to fight you, and it just got really annoying. Like I can understand like early on it's fine, but like towards the end of the game when I'm trying to just clean up a little bit here and there, it's just kind of like, all right, why do I need things to keep attacking me at this point? Like alpha Pokemon, sure, whatever, but it's just like all these random little Pokemon I've completed the entries for and stuff. Like why are we still attacking me? It just got very annoying towards the end. Now, for the battling portion of the gameplay and, just battling things was, fine. It felt like an actual Pokemon battle to a degree. But, like, at the same time, I would fight some Pokemon. I believe you might be able to see it in this footage here at some point. But, like, when I'm playing the game and there's a level 30 Pokemon that can do a quarter of my legendary Pokemon that is level 75, and it does a quarter on a non-super effective move. It just hits me once and it does like a quarter, and I'm like, why does that doesn't correlate? So I think the leveling and stuff was a little weird when like doing battles with things. For the most part, the battles were fine. Like it was like a typical Pokemon battle using super effective moves, all that other stuff. But there was just like at times I just felt like the random wild Pokemon or just random, battles with trainers, they would just have weaker Pokemon than me and still do like a quarter of my health with non-super effective moves or anything. And I'm like, I'm like 30 plus levels above you and you're still doing a bunch of damage. That doesn't really quite add up to me. And I also like certain Pokemon who I know have really bad base stats. Like, they just tank hits like a champ. Like, I'm pretty sure it's also in this footage here. I'm fighting the gate guard who has like a Bidoof that's like level 60 something. I'm still in my 70s. I'm like 10 plus levels above it. And you're telling me I still don't one-shot it? It's a Bidoof. It's a little beaver. You're telling me I'm not one-shotting that? So some of the battle aspects were a little wacky to me, in my opinion, which is, it's fine. It's a different type of game. I know the systems were different and stuff like that, but it just felt weird. I didn't really think the entire core gameplay of the game, running around catching Pokemon and stuff like that, was terrible. The alpha Pokemon, I found those fights to be pretty fun. I did enjoy the alpha fights. Some of them were a little bit rough, a little bit, weird, but I think those were the most enjoyable aspects because you got to learn their attack patterns, you got to dodge, you got to time when you're throwing your bombs, especially the Arceus fight. Like, if you got a little bit too greedy trying to throw your bombs out there, Arceus would be like, no, I'm hitting you, you're dead. And there, obviously the game has, a nice mechanic where if you lower its health down, you can continue with that health bar. So that's a nice feature where it's not like, oh, I got to restart its health bar. But for me personally, I kept restarting the health bar because if I can't beat it from full health bar to 0, then did I really beat it? Did I really beat it without dying? So I would just do it that way. But other than that, I really did enjoy the alpha boss fights and throwing the stuff at them and fighting them with your Pokemon. But some of like the in-game battles and trying to like catch some, like catching some Pokemon too was a bit like annoying because it'd just be like, oh yeah, I just want to like catch, like, I'm using an Ultra Ball on like a snow run or something, and it just like pops out, and like I know there's percentages and RNG and stuff like that, but like there was just times and scenarios where I'm just like, did that Pokemon really need to pop out of the ball like that? Like, I feel like that should have just stayed in the ball. And like especially with like that big ultra heavy ball, like the final heavy ball that you craft, and like there was a couple alpha Pokemon. I snuck up behind them perfectly. I gave them food, and I threw that heavy like ultra ball or whatever at them from behind, and they wouldn't stay in the ball. And I'm like, I get it, they're an alpha, but like I don't know. I kind of feel like reading the description of the ball and stuff like that, I'm kind of like, this ball's a little hyped up for me. And even just like regular Pokemon out in the wild, sometimes they would still pop out of it depending on the Pokemon. I'm just like, I feel like it should be easier to progress. And I think that's my biggest gripe with the gameplay is like, as I progress through the game, I feel like I'm getting somewhat stronger, but I don't feel like I'm able to just go out and conquer the game like most other games do. Like when you run around, regular Pokemon games like Scarlet Violet, Sword and Shield, those games, like when you complete the game and you get your Pokemon to like as high as you can get them, and you got teams all set up and everything like that, you can just go out and just stomp on the game regardless. But in Legends Arceus, you just don't get to go out there and stomp the game. And it's kind of cool that you don't get to, but also it's kind of annoying. It's kind of a double-edged sword for me, where it's just like, I would like to just go out there and just catch my Pokemon. Like I'm rank 8 star. Like I should be just able to go out there and just like kind of stomp things, just catch Pokemon, because that's kind of like the whole point of the game, is like that is the main mission. You get the words from Arceus, capture them all, or gather all the Pokemon or whatever. So that's like the main thing. That's the final quest, is catching one of every single Pokemon in the game. So it's just like, I'm trying to capture one of every single Pokemon. You're telling me you're not going to make it like, at least a little bit easier. Like it was tedious. It was tedious work, but at the same time, like, it didn't feel easier as I progressed. Just some stuff was just annoying. Some Pokemon just didn't want to stay in the ball. There's plenty of Pokemon I would run into who were just normal Pokemon that just wouldn't stay in the ball. And I'm like, do I just have bad RNG? Like, I feel like it shouldn't be this tedious. So it's kind of a double-edged sword with all that stuff. For me, I think the gameplay was enjoyable and fine. Like, it was, easy to do, intuitive, but it wasn't anything that was like, wow, like, oh, like I definitely have some gripes with the gameplay. Now for the story and parts of the lore of the game. This was a pretty good story. This is definitely a different type of story from your regular Pokemon game. Basically, you get sucked out of your entire existence. You're like, oh, I'm God has grabbed me and isekai'd me into a different universe. You're probably isekai'd. You probably get hit by a bus or whatever, and Arceus is like, oh, I'm gonna grab you. But like, it's just kind of weird how you just get taken out of your world, and then you get put back into the past. So you're in the past, and you're just trying to figure out why you're in the past, but also you have to deal with the two different Diamond clans and Pearl clans who are bickering over different things, and they don't get along that well. And then you join the Galaxy Survey Corps to learn more about Pokemon. And basically the first half of the story is just you learning about Pokemon, going around, and then you hear about the alpha Pokemon that these clans worship and have around. So you gotta calm down these alpha Pokemon and talk to the clans, and you kind of bring everybody together towards the end. And it's just a different, nice story. It's not the same story that we've been getting every single year. I would say the only things that are different, probably Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet have diverted from the formula a little bit. Sword and Shield, not so much. It's not, it's a little bit different. They kind of treat it a little bit different. But Scarlet and Violet, you can just kind of do whatever. You get to fly around. But for the most part, every single game, and Gen 7's different. But from Gens 1 to 6, it's you're a kid, go get all 8 gym badges, beat the Elite Four, blah, you're done. So that's kind of the core premise of the Pokemon games. Whereas this one is like survival. It's an action survival RPG. And the story is just different. And it's nice. I enjoyed that. It still does not top Pokemon Coliseum or Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness story because those stories went hard, but it's still a good story nonetheless. However, it was a very slow start for me. Like, I kind of just found myself not really caring too much about the plights of the clans, and I was just like, oh yeah, sure, I'll go do these things or whatever. Like, it was kind of like, like that, and then just going through catching Pokemon, going through the motions, and it honestly wasn't too riveting at first until you get towards the Alabaster Icelands, and that's when it kind of like was picking up a little bit with the scenery and the Regigigas temple and stuff like that. I was like, oh, okay, I'm getting it. And that's when it kind of started to pick up for me, because before, like, I just wanted to do the story, but it was kind of like, oh yeah, you need to get your rank up to go to the next area. And that part annoyed me very much because it's just like, I just want to play the story. I just want to go through the story. I want to get through everything, get everything that I want. And it's like, no, you need to get your star rank up. And I'm just like, I don't care. I don't care about getting my star rank up. It's just so tedious. So there was a bit of tedium there for me with all of those different things. And I'm like, okay, like, it's fine. But for the most part, it was enjoyable. Like I said, I enjoyed the alpha boss fights. I was like, oh, especially fighting the alpha Cleavor. That took me by surprise. I was like, oh, this is different. Okay. So I enjoyed the alpha Cleavor fight and just going through all the alphas. And that's kind of what I was really looking forward to for the most part in the early chapters of the story. I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to help these clans and, go through, take care of the alpha Pokemon. But then once you got towards the end, there's some stuff that didn't make sense. Like towards the end of like the first arc of the story, where it's just like, oh, this sky turn, you get all the alpha Pokemon, the sky turns red, and then you got to deal with all that, and the village chief is like, I'm gonna kick you out of the village, and you're just like, why? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Because they're like, oh, you came from the sky, this must be your doing. But I'm like, what? I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, you've seen me, you've seen what I dealt with, and even the other side characters are like, this is preposterous, we shouldn't kick you out, but we gotta do what we gotta do. I'm like, no, we don't. No one agreed with the chief, and yet we're like still following his orders. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. But whatever, like, that was kind of like the thing that I was like, what is that storytelling? That's a little weird. That part kind of was like, really, we're getting kicked out of the, like, that was kind of weird to me. But towards the end, when you go to get Dialga and Palkia and those final moments, those were very good final moments. But the second arc, that was a really good arc after you clean up everything and do everything. I enjoyed that. Granted, you can't have the second arc without the first arc, but I enjoyed the second half of the game much better after catching Dialga and Palkia and getting the rest of the plates, doing all these different, tasks and stuff, getting the legendary Pokemon. I really enjoyed that aspect, and especially the fight with Volo. That fight went hard, and it was also difficult because there was surprise Garantina pops out of nowhere, because at first I was like, oh, I'm gonna beat this dude easy, I'm gonna smack him around. I got my team ready, I smacked that dude up. I was like, easy, this fight's easy. Then Garantina shows up and I'm like, huh? He just gets to get. I was like, all right, whatever. And then I was under the assumption that my whole team would be revived. Nope, no, it wasn't. My team is still mostly dead. And Garantina bent me over and smacked my cheeks. And I'm like, okay, all right. And then I had to come back. And then I beat Garantina. And I was like, all right, I beat Garantina. I got it. And then Garantina changed forms. And I'm like, bro, what is this? I'm tired of fighting this dude. But all the parts up to fighting Volo were pretty good. And honestly, I knew Volo was the villain the moment he came onto screen. I already knew it. I already called it immediately. I was like, this is the villain. This guy's the evil dude. I already know it. But overall, it was a pretty decent story. It was a good story. Definitely above your average Pokemon experience story. I would put it at probably my fourth best story. I would say Coliseum and XD Gale of Darkness are 1 and 2. Those are just amazing stories with how dark they are and the topics they cover in those games. I would say the DLC for Scarlet and Violet, those two DLCs were just so good that they just get their own spot above regular Scarlet and Violet. So I would say the DLC stories were definitely up there, but I think Legends Arceus is my fourth favorite story out of the entire Pokemon series, like the main lines, trying to like fit it in with like the main lines story and some of the side games. I'm not gonna, compare it to something like the Pokemon Snap story, because one, I haven't played Pokemon Snap, and two, it's Pokemon Snap. I don't think it, is that riveting. So yeah, overall the story was pretty decent. So that's my review of Pokemon Legends Arceus. Every time I hear people talk about Legends Arceus, they honestly glaze this game, and I just can't. I just had some issues with it, some gripes, and just kind of like the pacing of the game was a little bit off with how it would just stop you from, moving on to the next area. And, I did, complete everything. I got Arceus as well, and that part was fine. There was just some tedium to getting all the Pokemon, but, that's what you get when you try to complete an entire Pokedex. But I will say that is the upside to this game, is the fact that you can catch every single Pokemon in this game. The entire dex is right there. You don't need to trade from another game. You don't need to do this, that, or the other. Everything is in the game. You can catch everything in the game. And I think the only couple groups of Pokemon that are the most annoying, or one of the most annoying, is the space-time distortion Pokemon, because you can only get Rampardos and Basculodon in the space-time distortion, and then Porygon Z in another space-time distortion. Every other Pokemon, though, you can catch outside of a space-time distortion using different methods, getting the trade items that you don't even need to trade for. You just use it. So that is a very good thing. That's why I say this is probably the best game to get any type of Pokemon in. Like, if you want to use, like, a Gengar or something in a future playthrough of, like, Scarlet and Violet or Sword and Shield or whatever, like, get this game and then like transfer your Haunter over, evolve it in, Legends Arceus, and then transfer it back, because you don't need to trade with anybody. You don't need friends or anything. So this game has made trade Pokemon a little bit more accessible for Pokemon like Machamp, Gengar, Rhyperior, Electivire, Magmortar, Magnezone, Tangrowth, there's a couple other ones, but yeah, for the most part, this game very accessible, very easy. But I just can't find myself to glaze the game like most people. Everyone's like, "Man, this game's so amazing," and like I see the potential. I see what they were trying to do. It's a good game. It's a good game. I will say this is a good game, but not a glaze-worthy game. It is definitely not a glaze-worthy game in my opinion. But these are just my opinions, and hopefully ZA, when it comes out, it's going to be a glaze-worthy game for me. But that's going to be it for me. If you made it this far in the video, subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. And yeah, this is Legends Arceus, the review. Hope you enjoyed. I will see you in the next one. Take care. Peace.